How's it going, YouTube family? Today I'm in Grandas de Salime, and I've convinced Mariano to come and visit the Ethnographic Museum, since here you can find the whole history of the Asturian villages and their customs. Well, a lot of gadgets and very old things that I wanted to show you because I think they have a pretty important value for who we were and for who we are today. Well, I'm here with Mariano today, and it turns out that, well, I suggested coming because I thought it would be really interesting to come with him, since I think you're going to recognize a lot of pieces in the museum.
I have memories of many pieces from before of customs that were practiced and all that, yes.
Of course, that's why I came up with this idea, and I think the video might really catch your interest since there are more than 3,000 pieces in the museum, and I think some of them I personally have never seen, and I think there will be some that Mariano won't even recognize either.
Well, if we're talking about very old times, of course they weren't used in my time anymore.
Of course.
Normal.
Yes, we're a bit expectant since I've never been before and it's my first time going in. For those from another country who can't visit, I think it will be interesting for you to see this kind of museum. Well, here you can see the granary we have behind us, which is beautiful with all the autumn leaves that have fallen, and this place is like something out of a storybook, right, Mariano?
Yes.
This place is beautiful.
Like in the movies.
Personally, I recommend you come to this place. It's in a pretty isolated part of Asturias, but it's worth coming because the nature here and what you can see in these villages around here is really worth it. I hope you want to stay and watch the video, so now we're going to head to the museum. I'll leave you with the intro and my social media links in case you want to subscribe to the channel and follow me on other platforms where you'll be a bit more up to date with what I create on YouTube and also some other things I don't upload to YouTube, so, well, I won't go on any longer and let's get to it. Well, we've just arrived at the Ethnographic Museum of Pepe el Ferrero, and Mariano, you've already been amazed by the entrance, right? What a cart they have on display here, huh?
Exactly. We're already seeing things here that were used in the past for farming, plowing, and all that.
Yes, there are a ton of things. Well, this is the main entrance, and I wanted to explain to you that I've done a bit of research, and there aren't just 3,000 pieces, Mariano, there are 18,000 pieces on display, okay? I'll explain a bit so you get an idea of what we're here to see. This used to be a rectory house that had a water well, and only the remains of an old horio were left. They've rebuilt it. This is a horio that's made with a rye roof. The roof is made of rye. I'm going to try to find the only person I think is left who knows how to do this amazing work because this is really a huge job. I'm going to see if I can find him and if we can record how he works on this type of roof because I find it very interesting. Also, I think he's someone who didn't do this as a profession, but he knows a lot about this subject and he's the one keeping it alive today. Well, they've brought this horio here, as you can see. I think it even has a date on it, which I'm looking at right now. And look, it has a date from 1974, huh? I mean, this horio is quite old. And, well, this museum wasn't originally here. It started in the basement of the town hall, and well, they set it up there thanks to Pepe el Ferrero, who was the driving force behind all this, and was the one who, well, when that place became too small, they moved here. And well, as you can see, you're going to be amazed by everything I'm going to show you. I'll have to give you just a small glimpse of everything that's here, because honestly, this is really worth coming to see. I mean, I can't show you or stop at every single piece, because the video would last many hours. I'm heading to the first part I want to show you over there, and I'll start recording as I go in. Well, the first thing we have here is a chapel that's been reconstructed. Well, you'll see all the pieces they have inside, which I find impressive. Look, it's like stepping into that era, right, Mariano?
Yes, absolutely.
There's a wooden coffin here. There are a lot of old photos, and what I'm noticing, Mariano, is that there are a lot of different confessionals, right?
Yes, this is a confessional. The priest would enter from this side, and well, there was this little window here, and then he would close the door. The men would confess on this side and the women on this one.
So there were different areas for men and women, huh?
Yes, the women had to, they would come kneel down here on the floor, while the men would kneel too.
But each one in a different place.
Each one had to be, I don't know, as you can see there, you can see it shows a separation, right?
Yes, we already know about that time. And here we have a totally different model, right?
The type of confessional was the same. Men here in front, women on one side and the other, and in this one it's the same.
Impressive. There were some models like this one that I had never seen before. Honestly, I had seen this one here and this one, but this particular model, I had never seen it here. Well,
that depended on the areas. Well, I don't know which ones they would try first, if it would be these or those. I mean, there's something that honestly I can't.
Yeah, well, if they come here, they'll probably get some advice. The thing is, Mariano and I are just visiting, and, well, we're going to show you the parts that caught our attention the most, right? Because we took a quick look around first, and we picked out some parts that we thought were pretty interesting to show. But as you can see, everything in this museum, all of it, is original pieces, okay? They've been rescued from many abandoned villages, from different areas, from people who donated them, so everything you see here is 100% authentic. There are also, look, ratchets here, the kind used to make noise. See? Do they have a specific name, Mariano, do you know?
I've always known them as
ratchets. As ratchets, right? I wasn't wrong there. Well, let's keep going over there so we don't make the video too long, because like I said, there's a lot to show you. We're going to go to an area where they display some farming machinery, okay? That's right. In many of the videos I show you, we find pieces of this kind of thing abandoned out there, and it's a shame. Here they have a small collection that, as you can see, includes cedars and many different models. I've shown you some. I can recognize some that I've seen in villages. They told me that in some, on one side they would put the beans, and on the other side the corn, and that's why they had two compartments.
Yes, well, they had this here to hook it to a wall, a donkey.
Of course. Look, what a detail. I hadn't seen this before. Yes, look, they're totally different, but each one is for tying up the donkey, the horse. And, well, this room, like I was saying, in this room they store a lot of different machines for sowing, for threshing the grain. So you have a lot. We're not going to go into details either, because like I said, if we do, I won't be able to show you everything. The museum, the collection they have is extremely extensive. It surprised me. I don't know about you, okay? I'm surprised by all they have. I'll give you a quick look so you can see a bit of everything that's here. And well, let's go to the next room, which I think you're really going to like because it's a bit mixed. There's an area that's about trades, okay? There's an area where, as I said, they selected more or less the trades from here in Asturias, and in the other one, there are many objects and a large collection of pieces. For example, see, we're entering the Barbershop Museum. Yes, and you'll be amazed at what they have here, all the pieces they have here, look, right? Here you can take guided tours, and I'm telling you, they will show you and explain every piece you want to know about. They'll explain everything to you without any problem. As you can see, there's a bit of everything here, right, Mariano? Does any of this bring back memories for you from when you used to go to the barbershop back then? Yes.
Of course it brings back memories, but well, the barbershops back in the village weren't as well equipped as these. Not so much, huh? It was the typical village barber who...
Well, the chairs, all this stuff.
More professional?
Let's say yes, more.
Audience, look.
Over here you have a bunch of, well, liquors of... A bunch, look, perfumes. There are a lot of things. So anyway, well, let's continue because we're going to find another different job, which was the tailor's shop. As you can see, they still have mannequins and real clothes here. And it was a bit of a recreation of... Where the tailor worked here, he made absolutely all the necessary clothes, even custom made for people who came in. I mean, it's impressive. I've also seen that around here, Mariano. There's a huge collection of irons.
They finished the clothes to iron them, getting them ready to deliver to the customers.
Amazing, right? There are actually irons just for sleeves. I mean, there are a ton of things. There's a collection of sewing machines, and some of them I've never seen before, like this one here, for example. And you can see that, well, wherever you look, you see antiques, huh? This is for those of you who like everything related to antiques. And everything I keep finding in the towns I'm showing you, here you'll find many pieces, many memories. Wow, it's amazing, huh? This is a typical kitchen, well, from Asturias and from the old times here in Spain. Look at that, it had quite a wash basin, huh? Quite a marble sink, wow. Impressive. The wood-burning stove. Well, I actually find a lot of these pieces around, they come kind of lacquered, you see.
Well, they were called porcelain coated. In porcelain?
Right, yes.
Yes, the cauldron, this and all of this vary. Placadas if it wasn't this way.
So that it wouldn't rust. I often see these furniture pieces in many places I show you. Obviously not with all of this you see here, because here are all the usual kitchen utensils that were used. I imagine this is bringing back some memories for you, Mariano.
This pot, oh my goodness.
Yeah, right.
There are things that seem like they never go away.
Right, never, huh? I imagine you can even smell the kitchen from back in those days.
From that environment, those homemade natural aromas. Yes, it's unforgettable.
Well, let's continue, and we're going to enter a room that was, where the soda was made. The CAS, all of this, you're seeing a lot of machines. They've explained a little bit to me, so I'll be able to explain a little bit about what's here. And, let's start here, which is where the carbon dioxide tank was. Everything was stored here, and this is where the bottles were filled. Yes, then over here we have more machinery for handling the bottles. The caps and the machine used to clean the bottles. And then also, the tubs where they stored them, there's a huge collection of bottles. Huge. And more machines are for the same thing, for the carbon dioxide process and all that. Exactly. So, we're going to go to a bar now and we're going to show you how it's done. I won't spoil anything. I'll show you when we get there. Since we're going, I'm going to show you an Ultramarino, a store that was both a bar and shop where you could buy everything, even veterinary supplies, right? Mariano, up to even drinks, food, accessories you might need for daily life. So, let's head over there. Well, we're here now. I want to give you a panoramic view of this place because it's amazing. I was here a while ago. I didn't record it for YouTube, but I was in a place like this, abandoned, and when I came in here, wow, I really got a sense of what that place must have been like. I think that I'll try to record it for you as an extra in a future video with more content, and I'll show you a similar abandoned place I know in Asturias. And thanks to this video, you can imagine what these grocery stores from that time were like. I've been told that this one was built based on some photos from the Cuba area and all that to give us an idea of what they were like back then. But there are a ton of pieces. I mean, it's amazing, right, Maria? Isn't it?
Yes, let's go. This is a unique gem, unique and sadly no longer exists, nowhere to be found anymore.
I think I know one like this in Pilonia, but it's not this, of course, it's not this.
But there's very little of this.
Yes, because nowadays having the bar mixed with groceries, with the pharmacy, of course, everything used to be gathered here in the old days.
But, as they say, a little bit of everything, a little bit of everything.
And there are a lot of particular things. I think, look, one of the things I'm going to show you is about the topic of looking. Let's go over here because they've given me permission. Let's try, let's see how this was. How would I know? I think I would know around here, but look, I opened the girl because I already know where it is. The one who had already located it there, Mirar, was telling me that here specifically they have the thing about looking these containers here. Let me see if I can pick one up carefully and show it to you. Let me grab it properly. Look at this piece here. Well, if you want, Mariano, since you know about this topic, explain a little to us too. Did you also know about this back in the day? This thing here, which is also here, they're like little gas cartridges, right? Carbon dioxide gas, because
Exactly.
when you made the siphon, it could come bottled with the gas or without it. And then what they did with these pieces was put them in here, and when you pressed,
They released the carbonic gas and put it in for you. When the stream of water came out,
of the water, already with the gas included. Exactly, there were two options.
for this primitive town that started, I mean later it was quality, the carbonic gas was already included inside.
Okay. So, this was at the very beginning, when it wasn't mixed yet, really primitive. Well, look at that, what a peculiarity. I found it very interesting. I'm going to put it back where it was, very carefully, because my hands are really cold, since it's very cold here in Asturias today. But this, I had really never seen it before, and it caught my attention, just like this really old coffee maker and, well, a bunch of things here, because it's amazing everything there is. Look at it. In fact, here are some bottles called Bolish. That's what they told me before, if I'm not mistaken about the name, and they're the first bottles that ever existed. For the matter of, well, the drink, the one they had here, what was his name again? The siphon in the old days, well, it would come here and this acted like a dispenser. And the kids have told me that they used to break these bottles to get the glass marble inside.
Exactly.
And this bottle, well, it's a real relic.
So look here at how it's been crushed. The little ball stays inside, it wouldn't go down any further.
I think you can see it pretty well. Today I'm telling you the bottle is quite old and obviously has its wear and tear, but it's very hard to find. And here they have a bunch. You can see there are a lot of them. So that's it. Let's leave it as it was. And well, I also wanted to show you around here the area where you could buy, well, beans, chickpeas, lentils. Impressive. It's like being in that time period, huh?
That were used before me? Before around here? Well, then I bought it later. Can you see everything over there?
Yes, there are a ton of pieces. I'm telling you, trying to see or explain each piece one by one is practically impossible. You'll have to come to the museum, and I really recommend that you come if you visit Asturias, because it's going to bring back a lot of memories, and I think it's worth getting to know a little bit about it. Well, the tasks, the trades, all the businesses that existed back then and what they were like. So, well, look, in this area here was everything, like a mini hardware store where you could buy a little bit of everything. There were cans of paint, there was everything. And I'm telling you, everything here is not a prop, it's all authentic, absolutely everything, it's all real. Look, there are bills from that time, 1,000 peseta notes from the Bank of Spain. So anyway, let's keep going.
Because for writing and desk-related things...
Yeah, that's true. Look, I hadn't noticed. They have everything set up.
The typical inkwell that was bought for pens, then these are the pens that were used for writing, yes?
Yes, here there was this bookstore to buy stationery items.
So let's go upstairs to see the school that sells and makes ink in those inkwells that were there. Well, but anyway.
Yes, because now we're going to head out, we're going to go up here and we're going to show you a school that's beautiful, you'll see. Well, here we are entering the school we mentioned to you, which is a recreation. You can see that it has the original desks made of chestnut wood, just like the school I recorded in La Colada. You got hit a lot here, didn't you, Mariano?
Well, I do have some not so pleasant memories about that, which you don't just notice when studying, but when you get punished.
I imagine they were known for giving out many beatings back then. Look, there are a lot of maps, old ones too. I already showed them to you over here in that school where I went to record. The heating they had back then, the stove was a salamander stove where they put the firewood in and warmed themselves. It has a name. And well, if we keep going this way, there's something that really caught my attention, which is this toy here that's made entirely of wood. It was a wooden car that the children used to play with in the yard. Incredible, the teacher's desk.
Well, here the inkwells, they would pour ink from that inkwell we talked about earlier, and then here the pens would rest.
In this one, in this little hole, the pens were placed, right?
Of course. Once we put it there, we write, and then later they put it there again. Anyway.
Does it bring back memories? There are just so many.
I remember the first day I went to school, it turns out it was, well, as if it were here. But it turns out that behind me was one of my cousins, so I turned around like this, and what did I do? I put my hand in one of those inkwells, all full of ink. The teacher came, well, she slapped me there, and after that, every day I had to go to school to bring myself because I didn't have any bread.
Were you afraid to go back? Like I said, I always heard stories that teachers back then were really strict.
They used to hit you for almost nothing, but that's how we all ended up straight, just like we were supposed to.
To be straight as a candle. Let's continue and show them the next room, Mariano. In this room we're in, for example, the theme of woodworking is recreated. How did it?
The subject of the madroñero, as you can see there in the video, the one that's playing right there. I find it amusing to talk about the madroñero at that moment.
You can tell all the benches are original, right?
Exactly. That's where they used to work the wood. Here they were already preparing it, and even here they already had the lathe to start hollowing out the wood from the inside.
This is the typical footwear in Asturias, in case you're new here and not from Spain or Asturias. That's right, the madreña is the traditional footwear used when you go out to the garden, to the area where there's manure and all that. You would put your slippers in without taking them off. You'd put your slippers in here and go out to the street with this on.
With a real wool sock from sheep.
And well, I'm telling you, here in this room you're going to find everything, all the machines that existed back then to make this type of footwear. So, let's continue and show you the fishing and hunting area. Let's go over there. Well, in the hunting and fishing area we can find a lot of, as you can see, gadgets that were used for hunting.
Traps that they used to set up for hunting, for example, look over here, this one was for mice, and this one was, for example, to hunt foxes or slightly larger animals.
What they called vermin, just to keep things under control.
Then there are things from the old days, but that's from way, way back. The spears were used to attack larger animals, for example, a bear, a bison, and so on. Those animals that used to be here in Asturias. About the
cartridges, what I was going to tell you is about the cartridges. Also, there are the handmade wooden traps, which they told me about. A man I met many years ago told me how they were built, and he said, nowadays if you have to hunt something, you don't even know how to make a trap. And it's true, this kind of trap, honestly, you need skill to make them. There's also a huge collection of different revolvers and shotguns. There are these kinds of traps that I showed you in another video, which are traps for trout and fish in the rivers. They would get in and couldn't get out. Well, it's quite a complete collection. You can see that there are also some more modern items here, because this museum, yes, this museum covers quite a few eras, and, well, even though the sun is shining on me a lot, I'm going to stand over here. And what is this room, Mariano? The infirmary and dentist room? Well, and ophthalmologist too, there's a bit of everything. Here we have it. From the area where the dentist used to work, you can see the equipment they used. All the original furniture is here. Look at the ophthalmologist's area. Did you know this, Mariano?
Yes, I knew this. Well, not much, but yes, I had to be on duty here. Not for myself, but just to see something. For older people. I used to go with them too to take them to the eye doctor.
So you saw this piece of furniture in person? Yes, they had it there.
For several measurements for the variations in the view.
Incredible. Seeing all this brings back memories of old movies for me. Look, here is an infirmary room, as you can see, with everything that's here. Were they like this in your time, or is this much older, more modern?
And is this more or less from that time? There were a lot of things like this, many in these cabinets, just as you can see in the cart.
Did you know them? There are a lot of details. We could spend hours and hours showing you little corners of this place. Look, there's something special here that we want to show you, which is this right here.
Yes, this.
Many people don't know what it is and can't even guess.
Fire when there was no electricity, and that, well, everything surprised you, and with that light, well, this device had to be moved around the house.
It was called a pasmarot, and also, here there's a saying where they tell you not to stand still like a pasmarot. It was because this gadget was always stationary, so if you needed light, you used the stick instead.
Exactly.
That's where pasmarote comes from, which is quite curious.
Afterwards, then, here we already have all the methods. Well, these were already carbide, gas, and oil too. And well, after that, here we have the X-ray machine they used to call it before.
Wow, that's really old, my goodness.
Over there, there's already another system, well, for lighting.
Yes, honestly, the collection is super complete. We'll show you the next room, which I think you're really going to like as well. Let's go, come on. Well, Mariano, we're in the area of Los Molinos. Let's take a look here. I've already recorded videos for you before about millers and all that, but here there's a much more complete collection and I'm going to show it to you. We're going to show you a couple of unique features, okay? Which are the good parts. Let's start over here. This is the stamper. This is a machine that was used to crush the double husk of spelt so that it could then be ground properly, because with the double husk it couldn't be done. And being on foot, being at the machine with which this huge wooden contraption you're seeing here was made. And then you notice the detail. Yes, exactly. With this they turned all the machinery, but you had noticed a detail, you, Mariano, which was this up here, right?
Those were the primitive turbines that existed before the iron ones came. They used to make them out of wood, as you can see there. So the water jet would hit them, and that was what moved the whole shaft.
But do you see the amount of woodwork this had? Then after this the iron turbines came in, which were much more durable than these wooden ones you're seeing here.
That one is also a turbine like this, but well, it's more worn out, and this one also looks more worn out now, but well, that's how primitive things were.
But well, the main attraction is here inside. Let's go in, Mariano, because the main attraction is here. I have a few things to explain. I'll turn on more light so you can see better. And well, let's explain to them, Mariano, what they told us. Here there are several types of mills. There's the traditional mill, which is this one here, the most primitive of all. It was manual, and as you can see, it was operated by hand. It was quite laborious work because it's hard to move that stone. Then we had this one here, which was a little more modern.
This one already worked with the FS from those turbines we saw there that moved it.
I mean, this one was already powered by water. You didn't have to do it by hand anymore, and it was good because here the corn and the corn flour would come out along with the bran, which, yes, you still had to work with afterwards. And well, we moved on to the newest mill, which is this one here, and this one was already completely modern. Everything was powered by water. And we also have, well, how it was sifted, how the flour was separated from the bran, which is done by this machine, which in this case is not like the previous one. The video I recorded for you shows this one moving with water power. And it had that to show us the particular feature it had. What you're hearing here is the alarm the miller had, so he could know that all this machinery, when he was working outside, was all in good condition and everything was working normally, right, Mariano? We also have here a collection of all types of oats, millet, scandal, rye, wheat and corn, which was all that these types of mills processed here. And well, this here was where the cornmeal was sifted and selected with the husk. I can't remember the name now. The cornmeal with the bran. What did you call it in your area?
A peñera, peñerina, or peñera.
Well, that's a name I didn't know. I knew it as the sieve. As the sieve. That's how I knew it. I hope you found it interesting. Now we'll show you the museum's most beautiful part, the Rector's house, where they are located. Absolutely, the kitchen, the yard, absolutely everything about how people used to cook here in Asturias, and a lot of items, looms and trades that were practiced besides the mill here in Asturias. So let's go over there. Well, we're in the Rector's house and we're going to go inside because we're going to show you where the traditional kitchen and the trades are. There are quite a few things gathered here, starting with the traditional kitchen. This is it. This is the yard that you're seeing here. That's great. Now Mariano is going to tell us that he already noticed some particular features of this kitchen that are different from the ones in his place. And this here, which would be the wood-fired oven where they still roast chestnuts, this device here, which is for roasting chestnuts, is still being used. They said they do a maguestu here, meaning they roast chestnuts over a fire. Let's start here. Mariano, what stood out most to you about this area? Yes.
Well, here we have the typical bench, as you already saw in the other video. People die in the street and drugs. Well, this one is different, but it serves the same purpose. You can lift it all the way up and, well, it works as a table for eating.
Yes, but it's different, huh? It's totally different from the one we saw there, huh? Yes, it's different. Yours comes out from here.
Exactly.
And this one comes out from there.
It comes out here and the board extends all the way to that part. Yes, as you can see, this one is more divided.
But it's amazing to still be able to see this. Look, the yard is incredible, huh?
Here is what we used to call the yard, which was stoked on the ground. Here the pot hanging, they call them the clambileras. There, and then, well, this is a taglin.
Yes, the taluelos. We showed the taluelos in that village of the 90-year-old man who lives alone without electricity or anything, and he made them completely by hand. He still built them by hand, which really surprised me. Exactly. I'm seeing this here too. Is this the gindel?
Yes, exactly.
Or burrow, they called it that in some places.
Yes, the burrow, yes.
It was used to hold the cauldron over the fire. Well,
sometimes in some areas it might have one name, in others it might have another, but yes, that's what it is.
Yes, it depends on the area. If you're closer to Galicia or Cantabria, the names change quite a bit. Exactly. What I did want to show you is that these pieces of furniture you see here in such good condition are like the ones I show you in abandoned houses, but of course here they're in very, very good condition. You can see that they still keep things from that time inside, things they've been recovering. Look at the doors, how well they're preserved. There are a lot of baskets. Look at everything they have here. Traditional kitchen utensils. I would spend time here. Look, they even have chorizos, and they're not fake, they're real because they do the slaughter and hang them here, just like traditionally, because this is an authentic kitchen, not a recreation, okay? Yes, okay, okay.
Here to smoke them and everything, to cure the sausage, okay?
Yes, you can see another typical kitchen cabinet from that time, filled with recovered items. They're always finding these typical things. Yeah. And here, what do we have?
Here we have the famous coladero, as they called it, which was where they used to put the clothes. Then they would put a cloth on top and add soap powder and then hot water. And well, it left the clothes with a scent like perfume and a softness.
Nice, right? Nothing compares to what we have now, right? Look, here we had the sink where we used to wash, well, the dishes and all that. Nowadays, you can see it's full of antiques. We could spend hours showing you around here.
Here's something very peculiar. This was something they would put on their head, and then they'd put the big pot on top.
They'd place this pot on top.
Pot. Anything else they had to carry, for example, cereals or food.
And baskets of fish or whatever it was. We're entering this room now, which you'll see. I know I'm skipping things, but as I said, I can't show you everything. You'll need to visit the museum. It's truly worth it, and you'll find what Mariano explained here.
This is similar, but well, this is already made in a different way. Similar to the first one we were talking about over there. As you can see, it has the cloth on top, the ash there, the water would fall into the bucket, and they would throw it out and so on. So this is something completely handmade.
So, just to make it very clear, because there will be people who will say, but how did they wash with ash? I mean, the clothes were already clean, and what they did was put them in here, once clean, with ash and hot water, and what that did was whiten and disinfect, if I'm not mistaken.
Not exactly. And it would give the clothes a softness. The clothes would end up very soft, like an incredible mink feather.
And then on top of that, the water was reused because it was used for cleaning and for a lot of things. To be even clearer,
since it had soap components and all that, which was used to wash the clothes, to whiten and clean them well. Exactly.
Oh, do you have it here too? Tell me, Mariano.
Sorry, back then nothing was wasted.
No, back then nothing. I'm telling you nothing. I was looking at these pieces because this is part of the good stuff. Here we have a loom. You can see that we have a very old loom. And of course this room is a bit focused on sewing, wool, all that kind of stuff. And there are a lot of machines. There are brushes that were used to untangle the wool, also some kind of linen. All of that is for the linen that you see around here. Mariano linen, and what else? Something else.
Nothing else?
And then we have this here,
which was already wool work to make socks with 6. Anyway, well, this was done with some gadgets that threaded the yarn to make it there. They would turn these gadgets, this gadget, they would turn it with the yarn hooked on, and then they would start making...
here, and they would make the balls of yarn.
We're not going to leave it like this to later make, as I said, socks with 6.
A lot of things, because before everything was made, absolutely everything, there are a lot of machines. Well, like I said, if you want to know what it is, you have to come, but you can see everything that's here. I mean, the collection they have here is really impressive. I think this was the priest's room. Well, the living room, the priest's room. Here they recreate quite a few little things.
The bedroom, the priest's bedroom, exactly.
You can see that there are the traditional beds, the little tables that I always see so abandoned in all the houses I visit here. This one is spotless. It's very, very, very nice. There are wooden trunks as well.
That's what they used to call a trunk to store clothes and all those things inside.
And it was so the mice wouldn't eat it. I also understand it was so the mice wouldn't eat it too.
So they wouldn't go looking for it, otherwise, yes. And of course the dining table, which served several purposes, here it had what was basically the toilet.
Oh my, what an antique. You can see there's a kind of wash basin here. Now it would be like a baby bath.
This is where they used to shave. Here they had all this to sharpen the razor, which was kept in this thing here, and well, a mirror.
An incredible photo of people from other times. I'm really impressed by photos. Seeing people, look at these old beautiful photos, people from another era. And a mirror. I just love these pieces of furniture. Mariano, I'm really fascinated by furniture.
Look, here's a detail you have to pay attention to. Here, look at the partitions they used to make for interior divisions. They made a weave of sticks, which they called a sarmo. Then they would cover them and make the partitions as if they were made of brick.
You see, they used wood, put a kind of paste insulation in the middle, and then covered it up. And I think this was the children's room, which really caught my attention because it has a bathtub. Well, it has a device that still exists today, which is for putting the child in, right? So they can walk.
It was a walker for when children started to walk, they would be put in there, and well, to give them a bit of freedom so they could be on the floor.
They didn't mind if the child bumped into things around the place.
So they could make use of the time for other things.
And as you can see, everything is perfectly preserved, right? The trunk, the bed with the old clothes, both women's and children's. We also found those around here. The original nightstand. We also have these paintings and these crucifixes, which I also find a lot in the houses I visit. It's very common to see religious items in these rooms. And especially when there were things related to children as well. Check out the laundry room. It's beautiful, isn't it? What a marvel. And what's this? Oh, a crib, right?
This is like a tiny crib, but this was for when the children were very little, so they made it like this.
How peculiar. Like this with the
feet and so on and so forth. We'd go when they asked for talcum powder.
Look, I hadn't seen that one.
It was called a brisu.
Briesu. That's a very good name.
The name can change from one area to another. I'm talking about the area where I'm from.
Check this out. The wardrobes with traditional clothes. You can see there's clothing. I still find these in many houses I visit, unfortunately abandoned. I still find a lot of these clothes in the wardrobes, huh? So you can get an idea of what this was like. Look, there's a basin here too. It was used to wash the children.
It was a kid's shower, right?
Yes, incredible, right? And look at those huge chests, huh? Made of wood. To store what Mariano mentioned, the blankets in a trunk. And all that. Well, let's go to the other room, Mariano. Okay. Well, here we also have the shoemaker's trade. I'm going to speed up the video a bit now because, as you can see, I've only shown you a quarter of the museum and more than 25 minutes of video have already passed, right? You have everything for shoemaking, the former trade of shoemakers. There are a ton of pieces. Well, they're all original, but there are a lot of recovered items that are hard to find in some places now, you know? You see, and then in this room here we have, well, in the area we're in, wine was traditional, not cider. And we have a very complete, very thorough recreation of what wine production used to be like. Alright, in this area here we would have an old bar. With its original scale, all the bottles. Incredible. It's like being in a bar from that era. Right, Mariano? It's incredible. It's like a wine tavern. Incredible, incredible, man. It's spectacular, really. I can't stop telling you because this place drives me crazy. Well, if we continue this way, we have the room where they worked with wood. Alright, everything related to wood baskets, well, we already met in another video a basket maker who made trout traps, all the baskets, both in wicker and hazelwood. There are many types of wood used to make all this. In this room here, we have the blacksmith's area. Here, they worked on everything related to metals. You can see that everything is still here and they still use it for reenactments. There are guided tours where you can still find someone working in this trade. I would love to show you each piece one by one, right, Mariano? But I think the video would get too long. Alright, let's head out to the last part, and when we're outside, I'll show you. Well, just to wrap up the video and finish, I wanted to show you this part here that they have, well, a collection of old carts that are, you know, the typical hand-pulled carts. They're made entirely out of wood. The wheels, as you can see, are still covered in iron. Some tools as well for planting. And there's something very special that I want to show you and show to Mariano, which is the power hammer, and I'm going to turn it on so you can see it. Look, give me a second, I'm going to turn it on over here. And look at this marble, huh? It's a miniature reconstruction, obviously. What do you think, Mariano? Incredible, right? It's a reconstruction of a hammer, huh? Yes, it's a model, but it's a reconstruction of a steam hammer, which is what blacksmiths used in the past to flatten metal, turn it into sheets, and that way they could work the metal much better.
Because that's the square.
The little advantages?
And then that's where they put the ice. That's where they put it.
To flatten it so they'd work better. And everything was moved by the force of the water, as you can see there. So I think we're going backwards, not evolving, huh? When I see these things, I get a little worried about the path we're taking. That's it, I'm ending the video here. I hope you enjoyed seeing this place and that you liked it too, Mariano.
And of course I liked it, just seeing things from our ancestors here, tools, customs they had. Man, it's amazing, really amazing.
Yes, exactly. It's something we can't lose, and it's heritage that we have to keep alive as much as possible. I mean, we can't allow this loss we're experiencing on a cultural level, on a heritage level that we've been suffering lately, the depopulation of the villages I'm showing you. I hope you enjoyed discovering this place. I recommend visiting. Just search for Angiographic Museum in Asturias, Pepe el Ferrero, and you'll find it. There's no excuse not to come. It's a bit farther than usual in Asturias, but it's well worth a visit. Everyone leaves amazed by all there is to see. That's it. My social media links are below if you'd like to follow and stay updated. See you in the next video.